Um, Good evening.
Good evening to you, Heather.
How are you?
All right.
Heather Hubble, TSW design consultant for the city and architect. In July of 2022, the city asked us to conduct a sound study on the amphitheater, and we're here to report out on that. Behind me, as introduced, is Shimby McCreary, thank you, who is a acoustical designer, and he's going to walk us through the presentation we have tonight.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Mayor and Council. We were hired by the city to conduct a sound study of the amphitheater that has recently been constructed. The city was receiving a number of complaints from residents about the noise that was escaping from shows and sound checks that were happening at the amphitheater. And so we were asked to conduct this study to monitor the noise, making it out of the amphitheater and reaching adjacent residential properties. So following that study, we were asked to provide some recommendations that could help to address those complaints. Together with the city, we decided that before conducting the study, it'd be good to send out a survey asking for resident feedback to determine who was filing the complaints and the degree of the problem, and to get an idea of where these, which residents were being most affected by the sound. Sent out 50 mailers, and 13 came back. Of the 13 that came back, 7 reported a disturbance, and 6 reported no disturbance. All these people were aware of sound coming from the amphitheater, but again, only 7 reported being disturbed by that sound. 3 of those lived within 1,000 feet of the stage, and 4 were actually quite further away, more than 1,000 feet from the amphitheater. Of the 6 that reported no disturbance, 1 lived within the vicinity of the amphitheater, that is to say 1,000 feet or less from the stage, and 5 lived outside of that vicinity. For the measurement, we attended a concert on August 20th, and the map here shows 15, each circle represents a measurement location. So during the concert, while the sound's kind of going at full level, we took a measurement at each of these locations, and each measurement consisted of a 5-minute continuous measurement intended to capture the level average over that sound period. The levels were converted to A-weighted sound levels. This is per the city ordinance. It's a way of calibrating the sound to account for how humans hear low frequencies. And then, so the levels were recorded at each of these locations during the concert. This shows a table of the sound levels that were recorded. Each measurement number has a kind of average sound level that was recorded during its corresponding period. From this, we've determined that the loudest the places with the most exposure were directly to the north of the site, and the places over on the east were not getting quite as much sound. Per the ordinance, we were also required to record ambient levels when a sound was not happening, and that's the third column in this table here that shows I came back the following Monday, and this was around 10 o'clock in the morning, and just kind of recording ambient traffic noise. And so this provides a comparison of, what's typically going on and how much a concert contributes to the levels being experienced along these property lines. From the findings, we determined that the sound is largely escaping through some of the openings in the hard surfaces that comprise the amphitheater shell, and they're going out the back of the site, and that's how they're reaching these residences immediately adjacent to the site. Again, the levels are loudest along the properties. I apologize. This street here, do you recall the street that's directly to the north? Is that
Correct.
Lee? Or Yeah, I apologize. I don't recall the specific names of the streets that are adjacent to the site.
it's the
Are you talking about East Atlanta?
No, it's,
Is it
I know,
Lee
so-
Street?
yeah, I know Lee is one, and then this one here that's in the north-south.
So it's the properties to the top of page on your map, across the retention pond and the parking lot.
Brian, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. And so based on determining how the sound was getting off the site and which properties were most affected, we provided a recommendation for a sound blocking curtain that could be hung from the structure of the amphitheater shell and would essentially enclose the backside, cutting off those gaps. And this was provided to the city. Anything else?
Yes, so the city's not required to do anything, but if you want to improve what these residents are experiencing, this is the best solution to kind of block that sound that is reaching those northern properties.
Okay, so otherwise, let me ask a question. Otherwise, if I'm standing on the stage, you're talking about the side on the right-hand side as I stand and look out into the audience. You're talking about the right-hand side, having some type of big curtain hanging down from the right-hand side.
It's more than that. It's on it would be on three sides of the back of stage. If you look at the diagrams on the screen, you'll see a blue line along right behind the kind of backdrop wall. So there's a blue line where we would actually have a curtain kind of at the top of that hard wall. And then on the sides where you have the working wings, you'll see those red lines, and those are two curtains on each side. These curtains would be in the way of performances, moving stage pieces on and off of the stage, so they would have to be movable curtains. They would have to be on a track. And this is a specialty piece of drapery. It has to be rated for the exterior. It is a sound absorbing device, so it's not something that you can just go pick up. It would have to be custom made. Does that help answer your question?
That helps some? Yes, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Blunt, go ahead, please.
I have a question. When we first initially started doing the design of the amphitheater and these sound mitigating pieces came up, and we talked about how would we do that. Nothing was ever discussed to us about the curtains. What was discussed to us was walls, bushes, trees, all of these things. Now that we do a study after we've built it, and what's brought back to us is a sound blocking curtain that could be impeding for moving equipment around, but none of this was discussed during the building of the amphitheater.
Yes, the discussions that occurred were actually discussions, suggestions that were made in general. We did look at those options, and Shimby can talk about each of those. Neither a wall at that great of a distance would solve the sound issue. When it is so far back from the amphitheater, and I can let Shimby talk about it, the sound will just float over top.
But all due respect, let me say this. It's now we can say that now. But during the process of building this amphitheater that you all designed, none of this type of mitigating of sound was ever discussed. And that's what's kind of throwing me, because a lot of times when you start to build anything, don't give me the bells and whistles and make it sound good without telling me what the downfall would be if we don't do it. Because when we was talked about these beautiful trees, this beautiful fish, all of this stuff, none of it had anything to do with any curtains. Now we're saying that the beautiful things that we was told are not going to be sufficient. That now we brought sound blocking curtains. I don't think that's fair to this council when we don't build amphitheaters. You all do.
I appreciate that comment. With all due respect, we were asked to come with a recommendation to improve the existing sound. This council can choose not to do anything and still
Hold on,
be
hold on.
acceptable.
But
But
let me say this, all due respect.
All right.
Let me say this, because you said all due respect. Let me say this.
sorry, sir, if,
No, but
I'm sorry.
let me say this.
My apologies.
You just said if this council choose not to do anything. But I'm trying to tell you, what was brought to this council was none of this. We chose to do something that was what you all brought us in the beginning, all due respect.
We did not suggest a wall.
Okay.
No. Did you suggest trees?
Okay, hold on one second.
That was something that we talked about as a potential possibility, yes. The trees were a potential possibility.
Let me interrupt for a second, please. I've been informed that there is a certain type of action that we're dealing with right now. So it's probably best to only receive the briefing and not ask any specific questions because of some potential action that we're dealing with as a city. And
Well, Mayor, then this should have been removed from the agenda.
well, what happened is that I just got informed of this in this aspect. So I'm trying to take on some proper advice here at this point to keep from digging a bigger hole. Maybe.
Then I would ask this council to remove it from the agenda, because if I can't discuss, I'm not hired by them, I'm hired by the city, I'm voted in by the
I
city.
understand,
So
sir.
we can't discuss it, then it needs to be removed from the agenda.
My apologies. I did not know of that action.
Yes, sir.
Could you have Mr. Gardner to come forward? For,
Mr. Gardner, and probably I will say, and Quentin as well.
Yes.
Probably come forward here. Stand by, please.
Mayor, I have a question when we get, it's germane to what they did.
Stand by, please. Mr. Washington?
Mr. Mayor, I think we may need to discuss this in executive session.
Okay. All right. And that means that otherwise the entire topic itself is what you're getting at. Is that correct? Yes. With these two individuals here? Yes. Okay, I got it. All right. So based on that legal advice, then I would say to you that I'd like to have a motion to remove this topic now for open session at this time, and then have further discussion in executive session to have this briefing and have this discussion. Yes, sir.
I so move of that motion to discuss this in executive session.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Ms. Gantz, second that. All in favor, please indicate. 3, all opposed? Abstain?
I don't really think.
Okay, I got 3 passed. What's your desire, sir?
I'm not voting. It doesn't even really matter, Mayor.
Okay, and you abstain too, Ms. Barbara, Mayor Pro Tem? Okay, so it's 3-0-2. Okay, we'll have to talk about this further in executive session. Motion passed. Okay? Thank you.
Is that executive session to be tonight?
Well, we'll
Is
do
that
it
what I
tonight.
understand?
We'll have another executive session tonight
Okay.
to do it tonight, since you're here before us at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go into executive session. We'll be back in a little bit.
Can we go ahead and get a motion to reconvene and move on? It's right over there.
Okay. All right, council, I need a motion to end the executive session, please.
So move.
Is there a second? Ms. Barber, second that. Okay, all in favor, please indicate. All righty. Now I need a motion to reconvene our council meeting.
So move.
Okay. Ms. Barber, I got Ms. Barber seconding that also from Alexander Barber. Okay. We have nothing to report from the actual executive session in this aspect for the public's notice, so I need a motion to end our council meeting, please. Ms. Gantz, so moved. Is there a second? Okay.